All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Lions Den, where we help our team to be successful in interviews, folks. It's going to be an exciting one. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Let's go, folks. We are live. Let's go. Thank you all for joining. We are live. We are live. Get other folks on. Tell them we are live. It's going to be a fun time. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you for hanging out. I know it's midday. A lot of us have things going on. We're at work. Thanks for taking the time to join the interview session. It will be an exciting one, folks. Thank you all for making it. Thank you. All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time. Today we have two people that will be doing interviews with us. But before we jump in, let me just make sure Swami is there. Hey, Swami, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Excellent. I think you're all excited and ready, Swami. I can tell, right?
Oh,
Huh?
I'm more nervous than excited.
You're nervous. It's okay to be nervous. And before we even get started today, I have a special guest with me. Is a mentor to our community. Also, we've known each other for many years. It's a delight to have here also Sanjay Kumar, the CEO of Essonova, and I wanted Sanjay to kind of just talk a little bit and give us some insights as a CEO and doing staffing and recruitment over the years himself to kind of walk us through and tell us some experiences he has had as a as someone that hired a lot of people and as someone that has seen different people in their career space. So what are the things, Sanjay, you think people should look out for in general?
At the time when someone interviews, especially related to technology, whether it is security or database administration or any programming, so they wanted to make sure like the person, like whatever he or she theoretically know, whether he can apply or practically use that thing or not. So that's very important. So whenever you learn some concept, so you should able to explain that i uh, I know this thing such and such way, and I applied in such and such way, and in some project, even if not that project for company, even if you are doing some own project, you have to tell them that this thing they have used and applied in such a such way. So the person who is taking the interview, he is more convinced that not only he has learned this thing but he has applied. So
Perfect. So you think it should be mostly hands-on? Someone should give us an idea of real-life projects they've worked on versus just verbalizing it alone, right?
yeah,
Okay, got it.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. And and typical of our drill, Swami, you know how it works here. We'll just put you on the spotlight a little bit. Let's give it up for Sanjay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And Sanjay will talk a little bit more in our conversation on some things that we have going on later also. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you. All right, so let's put Swami in the hot seat as always, right? So again, once again, everybody, thanks for being part of the community as always. Thanks for joining this session also. I know it's midday, so it's not uncommon. You guys are taking time out of your schedule to make this happen. So thank you. So let's talk about the interview that you have coming up. And I'll just quickly share with us. And this is the drill. So, me, I'll just quickly go straight to it. I took a stab at the job itself. So, this role is, like a vendor assurance analyst role. Your requirement is going to be you're going to be doing review of third party services. You'll do security control review and documentation for vendors. You identify the risk around those third party in general. you review contract and legal terms. Mostly your general counsel office would review those documentation, right? Then you maintain vendor master record also in general. So we all know that already. So that's really what the role is about. So, I gave you some tips on basic things around, walk me through your background, right? So this kind of highlighted some specific on what to prepare for. And I gave you two projects to think about. The first is talking about vendor security controls, meaning how do we implement security controls for vendors, the documentation itself, and addressing the gaps that you've identified for each of the vendors you're dealing with. Don't forget again, even though you are using a vendor, you and I are still liable, right? So it does not stop the liability from us. We are going to be liable if there is a vulnerability or there's a risk within our organization. So that's a big deal. The second project talked about doing due diligence, right? So I expect you to talk about your due diligence in terms of reviewing contracts, the legal implication, privacy implication, the tooling that your vendors are using also, and also the result of the assessment from those vendors in general. So that's a big deal also. Then overall, we want to see the overall security posture of your vendor in general. So for you, Swami, because it's a vendor related role, your emphasis will be a lot around your vendors, reviewing their SOC documentation, their contract review, the questionnaires you are providing to the vendor, assessing, doing a risk assessment of those vendors actually is also going to be part of your conversation for sure. Then they would ask you, do you have any questions for me? I kind of sneaked in two questions that you can think about. You can ask them, describe their most challenging vendor security incident they've seen in the last few months and how they resolve this in general. You could ask about their tools that they use to monitor and manage their vendor security. Now, for you, I know you did a training for Risk Rhino, I think. If you did
Yeah.
not, that's a good, yeah. So that gives you a good talking point because outside of tools like Acha, Audit Board, Risk Rhino, our partner, is a huge one you can also talk about using them to develop questionnaires and information in general, right? So that's easy. So that's the gist of it. So now this is your show now. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat as always. And after that, we'll just jump in to give you what our grade is. Remember again, don't take it personal. We don't score you more than 5 most times. So if I give you 4 or 5, don't take it, don't feel bad. Don't let me do therapy on you. You're still good, but we are just very conservative here. That's all. That's why we call it the Lion's Den. Okay. So your show now. So let me just drill you real quick from an interview point of view. So I saw a resume online, Swami, and I think you might be a fit for one of our role. Can you walk us through your experience and what you've done?
So thank you for having me. So I have about 6 years experience in the field of third-party risk management. And during the course of those 6 years, I've been responsible for, conducting due diligence in third-party vendors, assessing their security controls, ensuring compliance with industry standards, ensuring that risk identified to an acceptable level. Discussing with vendors on how they remediate their control that are not had, assessments, making recommendations to leadership in terms of which vendors we think will be the best for what we're trying to achieve, and also having strong, analytical skills, which has helped me identify and mitigate, potential risks in vendor management, and my ability to communicate complex issues to leadership has also been a big benefit of mine. So,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So tell me specifically, how do you tackle vendors that constantly are not providing you the required documentation based on your assessment? You are just not getting information from them. How do you tackle vendors like that?
Well, you want to do your follow up as to why that is not happening. Is it a case of they're not aware of what those controls are? Is it a case of they don't have those controls? Is it a case of they're not willing to provide that information? But you want to do your diligence. You also want to communicate to with your stakeholders that this vendors are yet to provide us this information. And if we give them a timeline that we need to have this within the next 30, 60 days, whatever is acceptable to us as a company. And if we don't get that remediation plan, then we'll move on to the next vendor. Obviously, all our vendors are tiered, so we know who we want to work with, and if we don't get it,
Okay.
then move to the next one.
Okay. What would you say is your biggest accomplishment as a vendor risk analyst? What would that be for you?
For me, it's always picking the right vendor to work with because obviously, even though we pick a vendor, we are still liable for if anything goes wrong. So it's always ensuring that we pick the right vendor for the right product that we want to work on, and ensuring that all our goals are achieved. With no
Okay.
issues.
Yeah, please go ahead.
With no issues, and if you have any issues, at least we fix them. At a very quick and acceptable timeline. So
Okay, got it. So, can you walk me through some KPIs or that you've really used to assess your vendors in the past?
um, incident response, how quick do you respond to incidents? What incident response, your access controls, depending on what it is that we're trying to achieve, right? So we use that to gauge. But obviously, one of the big things are incident response. How do you control access to our data? How do you protect our data? So
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So, incident response and access control to your data. Okay, what about in terms of their disaster recovery plan or their cyber resilience or their insurance? Do you review stuff like that or consider that too?
yes, we do. Yes, we do. Because the question was just which ones I look at the most. So those are the two I look at. But yes, we look at the insurance. We look at disaster recovery. We look at we try and analyze the impact of our business if things go wrong. So those are certain KPIs that we use to measure the vendors.
Okay, got it, got it. Okay, if you could, from your experience as a professional, if there was one thing you would say was your most significant accomplishment as a third party risk slash vendor analyst, what would that be for you?
My biggest achievements, as we said,
Yeah, professionally.
um, being to provide you know well thought of, well informed decisions to our business leaders that has helped them bring on the right vendor. So
Okay. What does that mean? Can you be specific? What 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 exactly does that mean?
um, I have no answer for that one. I'm not sure what to say for that one.
Okay, got it. All right. So, okay, another thing I would like to know from you is when you start doing third party risk assessment, walk me through the steps you typically take. Just walk me through the workflow. How does that work for you? What do you do? Tell us specifically what are the steps you follow.
Well, first things first, you want to make sure you have a scope of the project, right? And that comes working with maybe the project manager, whoever it may be. So when you put the scope of what are we trying to achieve, how long is the timeline, and what are the requirements. So when we get that scope together, then we now identify potential vendors. Then we send out questionnaires to them. We tend to use the SIG questionnaires, but that's one that's very useful. And
All
then we
right.
send it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Swami. I know you have an interview. Your real interview is in the next 45 minutes or so. So I
yes.
need to stop you quick. I need you to go and master quickly 3 scenarios ready to go. All right.
Okay.
So if I ask you to walk me through your project, I need you to tell me one of my project was building risk assessment for a third party vendor. These are the criteria I used, blah, 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 straight to the point. Now, don't stress it. Okay. It's straightforward. All you're doing is that, okay, I did a risk assessment for my third party vendor. Secondly, you might say you were responsible for remediation of issues found within your third party vendor based on the assessment. And this is what you did. You followed up on those issues. You made sure they rectify the issues. Thirdly, might be you are tracking or reviewing the contracts from the third party, from your third party providers. So give me 3 scenarios ready to go. Does that make sense? You are
Yeah.
very eloquent. You get, I'm not worried about your communication. You're good with that. But I need substance, project specific scenarios. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because when you're talking, I don't want it to be, don't let me dig. Because if you give me scenario, I'll just shut up because it makes me feel comfortable that you know what you're talking about straight up. So I need you to quickly, in the next 45 minutes, Don't stress it. Don't panic. I'm not putting you on panic mode, okay? So don't stress it. I mean it. Don't be stressed. But I just want to make sure we have two scenarios, and I think some people even gave the feedback. And guys, if you have questions, you can always give feedback in the chat thread. Somebody said give scenario. I like that. That's Yetunde, okay. The scenarios are important. That's our life, to be honest, because it will make the manager comfortable with you. So be ready to go with three scenarios. Don't let me start asking you textbook questions. Just say, hey, I'd like to walk you through three scenarios I've worked on. I've worked on contract review. I've done due diligence. I've done, somebody said, I like your confidence. Keep it up. Yeah, Swami is not short of confidence. Absolutely. So, yeah, very confident man. The only thing is make sure be ready to go for 2, 3 projects. And I think I sent you some summary already,
Yes.
so make sure you just have two ready anytime. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
All right, cool.
what about this one? Well, because I know we did one in class, the vendor analysis for the
Yeah.
cloud service provider. Is that a scenario that I can use? Because I
You can
studied that
use
one
that.
yesterday.
You can use that. The only thing I'll ask you, I like what Adekunle said, is use the situation, task, action, result format. Just say, okay, well, I would like to walk you through some scenarios I went through in my previous project. One, I was responsible for developing third-party vendor questionnaires, right? And this is what I did. I spoke with the stakeholders, understood the business itself, and developed certain questions that are applicable to all our vendors that address our risk. The action I took was building the scenario, uploading it to a third party tool called Acha, or in our case, we call it Risk Rhino. Then, based on that, I sent a workflow to the third party to fill the question. Once the questionnaires are filled, it automatically sends it back to me, and I can assess where they stand in terms of um, the risk around the vendor itself. So that can be an easy one, right? And just use any of our previous project, but just communicate it like star. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Okay, let
Okay.
me let you go because I need you to go take care of that immediately because you have 45 minutes or so.
Okay.
So again, promise me no stress. Don't be stressed, okay? No big deal. But I just know you have a short time, so I don't want to. That's why I want to make you leave quick so that you can go. Just make sure you have three scenarios, print them out, write them out quickly, so that you can talk intelligent with those three scenarios. Okay.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Go
Thank you.
shine, bro. Go
Thank you,
shine. Go
everyone.
shine.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay. All right. Bye bye. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm gonna bring somebody else in. Let's give it up for BDK. I'm not gonna call your full name. Excellent. All right. Welcome on board. Welcome on board. So
Hi.
BDK
Hi.
is actually based in Germany. She has 2 interviews lined up. That's my sis. And don't be stressed too, sis. Okay. You're in the lion's den, but we are not gonna bite you from the screen. Yeah. Okay. So don't feel bad at all. Okay. So don't feel bad at all. Okay, now the exciting thing for her is that she has a couple of interviews. I think she has 2 interviews, and one of the interviews I would not really get into it in details because that's the compliance manager role. The second one is
Mm.
one I'll focus on, but I'll still skim through it so that at least you can speak intelligent to it when that time comes. I'll not hold that against you in terms of your preparation now. The other one is the one I would drill you on, but I'll still like to talk about it for my other folks in case you have an interviews around compliance, manager role. So let's quickly do that real quick for the next few minutes and let's make the best out of it. Let's see what we can do. All right, let's go. All right. So for Somi that left, as always, I'm gonna give you 4. So you get a 4. Okay. So the 5, go shine, go bring up half for us, then we'll give you drum roll when you do that. Okay. All right, let's jump into this now. All right. So the first one is gonna be information security analyst, and this is the one that is I think is the one I would assess you on BDK. Okay. The other one I will just talk about it in general, but this is the one I'll focus on. All right, for this interview. So let's talk about what's going on here. The first thing is that I know this is Europe. I know our differences are not too much, but it's a little bit different than in North America in general. So, and
Mm.
that's fine. But most of the things are the same. The only thing that might be different a little bit will be some of your requirements in terms of regulation. GDPR, grunt shoes. I'm not German, but I'll try and speak some little German. before you correct me, I say, dude, what the heck are you talking about? But I'll leave the German part for you to deal with. All right. So let's
No
talk about
worries.
this. The funny thing is that I used to work in Manem with a
Mm,
company. Yeah, I worked there for about 6 months. So I worked in Manem
Madam,
for, yeah, Manem. Yeah, even though I didn't,
great city.
most of my folks spoke English. So sorry, I didn't learn a lot there. But I worked there for about 6 months. All right, so let's go through this. So third point talks about collaborative project team, plan and conduct vulnerability threat and risk analysis. Now let me highlight number 4 point. Most times when you are doing vulnerability threat and risk analysis, most times they use tools, right? They would have run certain tools like your Nexus to do vulnerability scanning. Once the tools have been run, the tool will spit out the list of vulnerability found, the risk level, if it's critical, high, medium, or low. So naturally, it's a no-brainer. If it's critical, then it means we should fix it now. If it's high, it means all right, it's a priority. We need to deal with it. Medium and low, we some mostly just leave them for later. So your priority
Mm,
will be naturally your critical and your high risk in general, right? Then the other thing
mhm,
talks about supporting sales team in expanding your customer relationship. Yes. Now, this is the expectation here is just to say, even though you are a technical person or you're an IT or cyber person, your sales team would mostly also be involved in understanding what are the risks, the issues within your business, especially if it's consulting environment. If it's
mhm,
industry, they may not care, even though they would want to still understand issues you are dealing with, but consulting definitely they care. Okay. All right, qualification generally, I'll leave some of these things. They want us to know ISO 27001, data protection, and proficiency in German and English. All right, I'll defer that one to you. All right, let's get to the meat of it. All right, the meat of it is just saying, tell me about yourself. I need you to be able to articulate your project knowledge, right? Project you've worked on and how you've solved problems. That's the core of it, right? Now, I gave
mm,
two examples project that you can talk about. One of them talks about working on enhancing your cybersecurity framework in general. The frameworks are very good because it allows us to benchmark where we stand, our cyber posture in real time. So it means if I'm a CISO, a new CEO or CTO that joins the company, I can come in and ask you to go do an assessment real quick. Based on the assessment, I can easily come back and say, okay, these are the gaps I can make decision on. And the decision will be factored on four key criteria. Number one, people. Decision will decide, do we hire people based on your assessment? Second thing is process. Do we need to build additional cybersecurity process procedure? Thirdly, it would also drive technology. What technology are we going to bring on board to support our business? Then finally, it might require governance in general, meaning the ability to provide oversight from leadership on certain projects and get their buy-in in general. So this is just the general gist of it.
mhm,
Compliance optimization is talking about, okay, at the end of the day, whatever compliance process we have, and this goes to everybody, the biggest value you can bring mostly is how do we ultimately make our existing process efficient? And it's a no-brainer. All of us have heard of the big buzzword AI right now, right? So it means number one, if you're not integrating AI into your model, even in terms of your security operation centers or network operation center, you're going to be almost irrelevant soon. So I'm not saying it will take over the business. I'm just saying you have to bake it into the process itself because at the end of the day, so that's the kind of thinking I want us to articulate, even in an interview for everybody. Listen, if you can always tell people and say, look, I know I also am aligned with the emerging technology like 5G, IoT, AI, ML, what are the implications on our business today? If you say that to me, people know that okay, you're not just thinking of what you're doing now, but you're thinking of the implication of those new technology to your platform and to keep you efficient in general. All right, let me pause. Question so far before you get to the outset.
no,
All right,
all
so
good.
let's jump to the two other things they would ask you. Do you have questions for me? So everybody on this call, remember you must have questions. If you have an interview with me and you are not asking questions, then that's a concern for me. Let me bring Sanjay real quick for those of us that joined late. Sanjay is a good friend of our community and is the CEO of Essonova, and I was honored to have him today in in the office. I said, "Hey, if you don't mind, can you be part of my program?" And he obliged us. So thank you, Sanjay. Sanjay, why do you think it's important in general when people talk, in an interview? And why do you think, in your opinion, why do you think it's important for them to showcase their knowledge of, or sorry, uh, to ask questions? After an interview, why do you think it's important? What does that make them? What kind of credibility do they get if they ask questions?
The main thing, they want to assess that this person, like when they ask that what's the question you have, or you can ask me the question, they just wanted to know regarding the context of the job, how deep one can, how deep the question one can ask, and how relevant he is,
Yeah.
his question related to the job, for the job he is interviewing.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. Thank you. Yeah, and I agree with that. So, ultimately people want to see that, okay, whatever question you're asking, it's really relevant to the job. So, I mean, if I ask me a question, I'm sure you will not ask me, what's your favorite food? You're not going to do that, right? It will be specific to the role itself. So, all right, let's get into the weeds of it. So this is the where the whole drill comes in now. All right. So okay, your show now. So BDK,
Mm.
walk me through your resume and what you've done, and why do you think you're a fit for this role?
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I am. I come typically from a background of sales, so I understand what it is. Also, having run my own business, what it is to run a business, and I am a software as a service consultant.
Okay.
That's a job where I work part time, and I am self employed and absolutely passionate about the field of information security. So I believe coming from both worlds makes me a suitable candidate for this and gives me unique skills that I believe will make
Okay.
me an asset to the company.
Excellent. Can you walk me through your project specifically, what you've done in the past, in terms of doing risk assessment, mapping framework, dealing with remediation, and what kind of project have you worked on? Give us specific examples, please.
Well, the company that I currently work for is a staffing solution, which means that over the course of 5 years, I've worked on different projects. So the different projects has come across my table in terms of authorization to operate or third-party risk management or security and awareness training. So risk compliance management, of course, incident management. It's quite a long list.
Okay, that's great. All right. Can you tell me specifically what do you do in terms of risk assessment? What's your what are the things you do? What are the steps you've used in the past?
Well, in risk assessment, I've worked in different organizations in different sectors. So, what it essentially is, in terms of looking at it from a consultancy standpoint, is that you're brought in to assess the security posture of a company,
Yeah.
and you're also asked must collaborate with multi as a cross-functional teams and coordinate also with the stakeholders to get their buy-in also and assess. Once you've been able to do that, gather all your findings, do your investigation, then you come up with your findings.
Okay.
And also you do your mapping, because at the end of the day, the stakeholders are going to require a report from you saying, okay, what are the critical areas that need addressing, and also what timeline in what timeline can they be addressed. So essentially provide a roadmap for the company. That
Okay.
is
So
the yeah.
perfect. Can you walk me through I saw your resume that you worked on some remediation project. walk me through a remediation project you've worked on, and what was the timeline? What did you have to do? Kind of walk me through your remediation project. And BDK, please just a quick one. Eye contact. So just getting the feedback. So keep your eyes straight to, make sure you're doing eye contact. Thank you for that feedback. And
Thank you.
folks, please feel free, provide your feedback. We need your feedback. Don't worry, everybody else will not see it. I'll see it and I'll, provide the feedback that I think is good. And if you have questions that you want me to ask her, please post it also so that we can just help her to be successful. That's the goal for us, okay? So don't worry, she's got thick skin. She's not going to take it personal. Don't worry.
Okay. Um, all right. Thank you for the feedback about eye contact. That's probably something I need to work on. I
Okay.
haven't had time to prep for this because I just came out of the meeting now.
Okay. And that's okay. And the other thing is,
Um,
please stop spinning, okay? Stop spinning, stop moving. I know
oh
it's a
yeah,
fancy.
good
All
one.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. We don't mean to be critical, but yeah, in the Lions Den, that's what we do
No,
here. We
you're
just,
right.
yeah.
You're right. So the
Okay, cool.
question was remediation plan, you said?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And don't,
Let me
team,
see.
remember again, the remediation part, every one of us, we need to be ready to talk about it, because at the end of the day, think about it, folks. Remediation is saying we have issues identified. What do we do to fix it? All right. And, I always give people credit that show up on our Lions Den. It's a great thing. It means you are open to learn. You're open to throw yourself out to everybody. So it's okay. Don't take it personal, everybody. Okay. It's fun. So at the end of the day, think about this. Remediation is so important because I can guarantee you, every organization you go to, they have some pending issues that are over 6 months, some 2 years. Some have been to the company, they've had issues that they've not resolved for 5 years. Yes. Now you might say, oh, they should fire the CEO, but there are some issues you can't resolve if you don't have money. For example, if you are telling me we need to, make a change to our change management process, and the tool to do change management is probably way expensive than my department's budget, then you might say, well, yeah, we know it's a risk, but we have a manual way of mitigating the risk, right? So we keep it. We know, but we don't have the funds. So it's not like there are losers that are not trying to do their work. It's just they don't have the fund, and that's okay. As long as they understand the risk and they are mitigating the risk, then we are good. So everybody be ready to talk about remediation, because I can guarantee you almost 90% of organizations have issues pending that they just wish you can come in today and fix all their problems. All right. It's not going to happen, but it's always a fancy way to always get yourself ready for an interview. Okay. All right. So, um, one thing I'll tell you, BDK, quick feedback is I need to make sure use your star document, situation, task, action, result. So if you tell me, everybody on this call, you must be ready for 3 projects. All our class exercise, tell me, well, I would like to walk you through some exciting projects I've worked on in the past that aligns with some of the things I see in this role. One, top on the list was I worked on a remediation project. The remediations have been, issues we've dealt with for the last 6 months or 1 year. My role was to go in there and try to make sure that the stakeholders can fix the problem in a timely manner. And as a result of the consistent follow through on the remediation, we're able to resolve the remediation that has not been done for the last 6 months. And it reduced our compliance defect by 8%. That is a big deal because you've tied it to a number also that, okay, it's an issue, we resolve it, it reduces our remediation or compliance issue by 8%. Another one can be as simple as I was responsible for building a risk assessment or a vendor questionnaire, right? And my role was to understand the specific issues and the risk within this business process, develop the appropriate metrics for it, and the right questions to ask. And I was able to identify the risk ranking, the impact on the business, and the likelihood of occurrence. So you're kind of breaking it down to let me know what you did. Does that make sense, BDK? I think you're on mute, BDK.
Apologies. Yes, it
Okay,
makes sense.
got it. And I know you texted me before the call that you were trying to, you had a long day, you didn't want to do it again, but I said, don't worry, just show up. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Just show up. So I won't ding you for it. I know I forced you to kind of still show up. But, I mean, half of the battle, and I genuinely mean this to us as a community, is showing,
Mm.
because guess what? After this feedback, I can bet you a lot of things you will start working on. And before the actual, when is the interview again? Friday, right?
Yes, but it's the first
Yeah.
one, so that's not.
Mhm. Text
They're not
me,
going to be
text
digging
me.
into.
Oh, this
Mm,
is the first one. Okay, okay, got it.
it's the first one.
Okay.
Mm.
All right, got it, got it. Okay, cool. Okay, let's jump to the second row. All right, just for the fun of it. I'm not going to ask you a question on that. Don't worry. Okay. But I just
Okay.
want to let me just jump to it so that we can. Some people might have the same interview in the future, so they can leverage it at the minimum. This role is a compliance manager role. All right. So most of
Yes.
us on this call, normally I don't recommend don't apply for a manager role yet. Okay. I believe in you, but not just yet for you to start manager role. Okay, maybe after your first
Mm-hmm.
experience, we can push that. Naturally, because it's management role, you have to have better knowledge of regulation within your business. You are going to be the one liaising between the internal and external auditors if there are issues. So they will put you and say, hey, can you help us to take a look at the issue? In the world of European Union, there's some language like BATE, IDAS, ETSI, and the next slide will show you guys what those things means. You're going to review work instruction, guideline, compliance processes, policies, procedure, security guideline in general, right? You would assist your legal department in contract negotiation to review the contract if there are gaps, especially around technology, right? So, for example, I would say like SOC 2 report, is it available? I can review the SOC 2 report and say, okay, is there appropriate content within SOC 2 report? Then, in this case, I cannot help speaking both German and English. I'll defer the German part to you. Okay. All right. I just kept this verbiage for the fun of it. My risk means minimum requirement for risk management. BIT means I'll defer that language to you, BDK. All right. EIDAC, Electronic Authentication and Trust Services, is just European Union regulation out there. ETSI, another European Telecom Standard Institute. So just kept that as an appendix for us. Then tell me about yourself. I expect you, because it's a leadership role. Tell me about project that aligns with leadership, audit readiness, audit preparedness for your organization, and reducing findings by X amount after your first year of helping your organization. The same thing, reducing compliance issue by X amount. Those are the value-driven things I feel we can always, provide within our organizations in general. All right, I know you're not preparing for this, but I just wanted to still talk about this since we already, I put
Mm-hmm.
it together.
Mm-hmm.
So questions we should ask naturally, if I'm applying for a management role, definitely I want to see what is the company goal and expectation for me as a manager, right? I have to ask, because at the end of the day, I want to get my bonus because it's tied to bonus, right? So I'll ask you what's the expectation in general. Then I'll ask you about regulation. If I'm a manager, then I should be aware of some of the regulations out there in general. Okay. But that's really the gist of it. You are not going to do any show for this because you already did it for the first one, so we are good. Then let me see. Total point, BDK, I'll be brutal on
Oh,
you.
yes,
Sorry.
I thought so.
Brutal on you. So
Oh,
I'm
good.
gonna give you a 2.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm brutal on you. I hope your kids are not there laughing at you, okay? So I'm gonna
I
give
have
you a
my
2.
headset on. I have my
Okay.
headset on.
All right. Now remember again, when I remember we are in the Lions Den, folks. So when we give grades, doesn't mean a reflection of you. I don't give anyone more than 5. But the reason I do that is I try to be brutal. So that let's be brutal internally so that to force you to do a little bit of push. I just want an offer, really. That's all I care about. But I want to be very brutal so that we can kind of be conservative and push our folks. Now, honest truth is that communication wise, you're good. I'm not worried about that at all. What I need is, and this applies to everybody, if I ask you to tell me about
Scenarios.
yourself, it's a slam dunk for all of us, really. I need you to be able to tell me 3 projects you can talk about without, and honestly, this cheat sheet is there. Look at the scenario document I've given in the past. Just find 3 that you can speak intelligent to and just talk about it. That's it. Then the other ones they ask, fine. But those 3 would be like a slam dunk anywhere. You can always talk about it intelligent. I like remediation project because I know it's always an issue for all organizations. I like risk assessment because I know it's something easy to ignore for organizations, right? So those are the things I need you to pounce on. All right. And BDK, ping me one on one. You and I need to just connect. Okay. We'll connect one on one.
Okay.
But again, but thank you so much for being confident to join us and jump on the brutal lions den. All right. We are not nice here for we are not so nice, huh? But honestly, folks, again, never shy away from doing this because we are going to be brutal. It's part of that's why it's called the lions den, right? We just don't want to be nice. We're here to be brutal to you. That's the goal, and we just want you to have an offer. That's it for us. But before we leave, I would like to bring again. I mean, I'm excited and I was happy when you obliged me. You had a meeting. I just said, "Hey, Sanjay, if you don't mind, I would like you to be part of my call with my team." And they said, "Oh, sure, I'll be there." So I wanted you to just kind of, have Sanjay just give some parting words in general and just say, what do you think in general in terms of what people should prepare for as a team, and as an organization? What do you think people should in an interview scenario or as they look for opportunities out there, what should people be looking for? I mean, you've dealt with a lot of people. I know you have a lot of staff in the US and in India. So, what should people be looking out for? What should we mentally be preparing ourselves for, Sanjay? That you think, you know what? Yes, we are entrepreneurs. You're a founder of a business. I've known Sanjay for we've known each other for about 10 years or 11 years. And for all of us on the call, one of the reasons I wanted Sanjay to be, we are working together. Sanjay has a very effective staffing model that has been helping people successful. And I said, hey, is there a way we can leverage some of your, insight to help my own team? So that's what we're discussing. Hopefully, sometime in the future, we can have him to start placing some of my team. And also, of course, as you apply, you are still applying, but we're also helping you with Essonova's team. So, Sanjay, what should people be looking out for in general? What do you think would be, in your opinion, one or two things that would make people more successful as a professional?
See, one thing is that the job we are targeting. So we should look like what type of company and what is the need of job. I will give you the my example when I joined the Microsoft in 2001. So what kind of that interview was?
Okay.
So in 2001, I was working for Lucent Technology in New Jersey. I got a call that they need some solution integration engineering job.
Hmm.
And I said, it's okay. So, first, it was a third party and it was a simple screening test. So, they screened me. And after that, there was a technical person from the Microsoft team. He called me and he interviewed about the C++ concept and what type of project and experience I have. And
Yeah.
mainly it was technical. So after two level of screening, they asked me for in-person interview. And I went there. So in that team, there was a 9 person. And all 9 people will interviewed me one by one.
Wow.
And it was almost like 7, 8 hour long interviews.
Oh boy.
Interviews. Yeah.
But really, nine
Yeah.
hours interview. Wow.
Yeah. Each guys will interview me, and it was stake. Like if one said no, it was no.
Wow.
Yeah. So and in the last, like what happened, like the tech lead came and he was interviewing me, and he gave me a problem puzzle
Wow.
that if it is a polynomial, how you can calculate its area, polynomial area. But luckily, like I was cool and confident, and I learned in my 8th grade that if there is a polynomial curve And if you have to figure out its area, the graph, and graph is having unit, and you count the all unit which is covered by the polynomial. And if it is, if any square, if more than half, you count it. If it is less
Oh my
than
God.
half, you don't. So I explained him, and then he asked that how you will implement this program.
How would you implement it now?
Yeah. So then I gave him the algorithm and all that type of thing. So the thing is that um, uh, Akin mentioned me that his program is very good, excellent, and I know him for last more than 10 years. So here is how we can prepare the student more and more so they are ready for the interview. So we have to bring the people from the different backgrounds so they interview more. We can give you the more project, and you can do more one-to-one practice.
Mm,
So we will build that kind of environment. So ultimate our aim is that the rate means the interview successful hit rate
yeah,
should go substantially high.
that's right.
So Akin and uh, I and my team is building together a model so that will enhance the success rate at least more than 50%,
Thank you
what
so
you
much.
have right now.
Thank you so much. And this is for us is a passion we've always had. Sanjay and I, we've talked about this, and the goal is at the end of the day, we want our team to be successful. We are not of the illusion. It's a lot of hard work. We believe in you to put the work, the discipline to get things going, and every tool available within our disposal to help you to succeed, we will use them. And that's our commitment to our community to say, okay, we're going to keep trying, put our best. We know nothing is guaranteed in the world, but we'll put our best to make sure you are successful ultimately. But that's really it. Later tonight, if you have time, invite others. We have information session for our upcoming cyber GRC program starting on this September 30th. So look out for that and invite other folks. But thank you so much for hanging out with us. You guys are awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay. Sanjay, thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you so much.
Akin, and thank you
Thank
for
you. Thank you.